The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. Its surface was smooth and black, covered with strange patterns that seemed to move when looked at directly. Inside the ship's command center, Admiral Kextar stood before a large screen showing the small blue planet below. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. White clouds swirled over brown and green continents. The planet had a few small space stations orbiting around it. Nothing that looked dangerous. Kextar's 4 eyes studied the readings his officers brought him. The humans had some ships, but they were old and slow compared to Zephyrian technology. "Sir, we have counted 47 human vessels in the system," reported Subcommander Velnok. His voice carried the confidence that came from conquering 12 other worlds. "Most are cargo ships or research vessels. Only 15 appear to be military craft." Kextar nodded his large head. The humans would be easy to defeat. Every species his people had conquered tried to fight it first, but they all surrendered when they saw how powerful the Zephyrian fleet was. These humans would be no different. On the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien ships through his own screens. He had been in the military for 20 years, fighting pirates and rebels around Mars and the asteroid belt. He had never seen anything like these alien vessels before. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez checked her instruments. "I count 36 large vessels, sir. Each one is about 3 times the size of our biggest ships. They're arranged in a perfect formation like they're showing off." Morrison rubbed his chin. The aliens were certainly confident. Too confident, maybe. In his experience, enemies who thought they had already won often made mistakes. The communication system crackled to life. A strange voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Kextar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will surrender all colonies and submit to our rule. You have 1 of your hours to comply. Resistance will result in the destruction of your world." Morrison looked at Amy. She shrugged. "Well, that was direct." "Get me a line to Earth Command," Morrison ordered. Admiral Lisa Carter was in a meeting when the call came through. She had been discussing the quarterly supply reports for the outer colonies, the kind of boring work that took up most of her time. The emergency signal made everyone in the room look up. "Admiral, we have a situation," her aide said. "Captain Morrison needs to speak with you immediately." Carter took the call in her private office. Morrison's face appeared on her screen looking grim. "Admiral, we have visitors. 36 alien ships, and they want us to surrender." Carter felt her stomach drop. They had always known this day might come, but she had hoped it would be later, when Earth was better prepared. "What's their position?" "They're holding at the edge of the system near the asteroid belt." "They gave us 1 hour to surrender," Carter thought quickly. The asteroid belt was a dangerous place, full of moving rocks and debris. The aliens might be advanced, but they clearly didn't know much about Earth's solar system. "Jake, I need you to buy us some time. Don't do anything aggressive, but keep them talking. I'll contact the other ships and see what we can put together." Morrison nodded. "Understood, Admiral." Morrison out, Carter called her staff together. Within minutes, her office was full of officers and scientists, all talking at once. Dr. Karen Mitchell from the Space Agency was there, along with General Paul Stevens from Ground Defense. "What do we know about them?" Carter asked. Dr. Mitchell pulled up a display. "We've been tracking their approach for the past 6 hours. Their ships use some kind of energy field for propulsion. Very advanced, but they're moving in a tight formation, like ships from our own history." "That could be good or bad," General Stevens said. "Tight formations are good for coordinating attacks, but bad for avoiding obstacles." Carter looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were indeed bunched together, probably to look more threatening, but they were also positioned right in the path of the Perseid meteor shower, which was unusually heavy this year, due to a comet that had passed through months earlier. "Do they know about the meteor shower?" she asked. Dr. Mitchell shook her head. "Probably not. Our tracking stations have been monitoring the debris field for months. It's much thicker than normal this year." Carter felt a small spark of hope. "How long before the meteors reach their position?" "About 30 minutes, Admiral." Back on the Liberty, Morrison was doing his best to keep the aliens talking. He had opened a channel to their flagship and was pretending to consider their surrender terms. "Admiral Kextar, we need more time to contact our government. Surely a civilization as advanced as yours understands the complexity of our political system." Kextar's image on the screen showed no emotion. His face was long and narrow with gray skin and those 4 black eyes. "You have 43 minutes remaining, human. Do not test our patience." Amy leaned over to Morrison. "Sir, I'm picking up some strange readings from their formation. It looks like they're charging weapons." Morrison nodded. He had expected this. The aliens were getting ready to attack, probably planning to destroy a few ships as an example. "All ships, this is Morrison. Stay alert but hold your positions. Do not fire unless fired upon." The minutes ticked by slowly. Morrison watched as the alien weapons began to glow with a blue light. They were definitely preparing to shoot. Then the meteors arrived. The first few rocks were small, barely visible on the sensors. But they were moving fast and they slammed into the alien formation like bullets. The aliens' energy shields deflected most of them, but the larger rocks were harder to stop. Morrison watched in amazement as the aliens began firing their weapons at the meteors. The energy beams were incredibly powerful, turning the space rocks into glowing dust. But each meteor they destroyed created thousands of smaller pieces, all moving at high speed. "Sir, they're making it worse," Amy reported. "Every time they shoot a meteor, it breaks into fragments. The debris field is getting thicker." Kekstar was discovering the same thing. His weapons officer reported that destroying the meteors was creating more problems, not fewer. "Sir, recommend we move the fleet to avoid the debris field," Velnox suggested. But moving was not easy. The Zephyrian ships were designed to fight as a unit, with each vessel supporting the others. Breaking formation would leave gaps in their defenses. "Maintain position," Kekstar ordered. "Our shields can handle these primitive rocks." He was wrong. The meteors kept coming, and some of them were large enough to damage even advanced alien technology. One chunk of ice and metal, no bigger than a car, punched through the shields of a destroyer and tore a hole in its hull. Morrison saw his chance. "All ships prepare to engage. Use conventional missiles only. Do not use energy weapons." "And sir?" Amy looked confused. "Our particle beams are more powerful than missiles." "Trust me on this one," Morrison said. "Launch missiles, full spread." The human ships fired a cloud of old-fashioned explosive missiles at the alien formation. The Zephyrians had expected energy weapons and had calibrated their shields accordingly. The missiles, being solid objects moving at high speed, punched through the energy barriers like they weren't there. Explosions bloomed along the alien line. Several ships took direct hits, their hulls cracking under the impact. Kekstar stared at his displays in disbelief. How were these primitive weapons getting through their defenses? "Return fire," he ordered. The alien energy beams lashed out at the human ships. But the humans had spread out, making themselves harder to hit. Meanwhile, the meteor shower continued, forcing the aliens to divide their attention between the human attack and the falling rocks. Morrison felt a grim satisfaction as he watched the alien formation begin to break apart. They were powerful, but they had made the mistake of underestimating their enemy and the dangers of Earth's solar system. "This is just the beginning," he muttered, ordering another missile salvo. The real fight was about to start. 3 days had passed since the first battle, and the war was spreading across the solar system. The aliens had regrouped and were now trying a different approach. Instead of attacking Earth directly, they were going after human supply lines and outer colonies. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Taylor was leading a small squadron of ships near Jupiter's moons when they spotted the alien supply convoy. His force was a mixed group: 2 military escorts, a converted cargo hauler, 3 mining vessels, and even a luxury yacht that had been fitted with missile launchers. "This is Wildcard Squadron," Taylor announced on his radio. "We have eyes on 6 alien supply ships escorted by 2 destroyers." The alien convoy looked impressive, but Taylor had learned something important over the past few days. The aliens always did things the same way. They flew in perfect formations, followed standard procedures, and expected their enemies to do the same. Humans, on the other hand, had a talent for chaos. "Listen up, people," Taylor said to his mixed squadron. "We're going in fast and messy. Mining ships, use your cutting lasers. Cargo hauler, ram anyone who gets too close. Yacht, you're with me for missile support." The aliens saw them coming and moved into a defensive formation. Their computer systems calculated the threat level of each human ship and assigned priority targets. The military escorts were marked as dangerous. The civilian ships were barely worth noticing. This was their second major mistake. Captain Sue Williams, flying her mining ship Rockhopper, had been waiting for another chance to use her industrial laser. The alien computer saw her vessel as a harmless cargo carrier and ignored her completely. Sue flew straight at the lead supply ship, her laser charging up. The cutting beam was designed to slice through solid rock, and alien hull metal proved to be much softer. The laser cut through the supply ship's side like it was made of paper. The alien ship split in half, spilling its cargo into space. Emergency pods ejected as the crew tried to escape, but the damage was done. One supply ship was completely destroyed and the convoy was in chaos. Meanwhile, Captain Danny Rodriguez was piloting the converted cargo hauler Big Mama. His ship was slow and clumsy, but it was also built to carry heavy loads, which meant it was incredibly tough. "Big Mama to all ships," he called out. "I'm going bowling." The alien destroyer tried to shoot him, but Danny had angled his ship's armor to deflect the energy beams. The shots bounced off harmlessly as Big Mama crashed into the alien vessel at full speed. The collision sent both ships spinning, but the human vessel had been built to survive asteroid impacts. The alien destroyer, designed for elegant space battles, crumpled like aluminum foil. Back on Earth, Admiral Carter was watching the battle reports with amazement. Every engagement was going better than expected. The aliens were powerful, but they kept making the same mistakes over and over. "Dr. Mitchell, have you figured out why their equipment keeps failing?" she asked. Dr. Mitchell had been studying captured alien technology for 3 days straight. "Admiral, their computers are incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly specialized. They're designed to fight other advanced civilizations that use similar technology. And we don't," Carter realized. "Exactly. We use radio waves, radar, simple electronics that create electromagnetic noise. Their quantum computers try to process everything as potential data, and our chaotic signals are overwhelming their systems." Carter thought about this. "Can we make it worse?" "Oh, yes." "Much worse." Dr. Mitchell had already started working on that problem. She had convinced every television station, radio broadcaster, and internet provider on Earth to boost their signal strength. She had also activated emergency broadcasting systems, weather alert networks, and even amateur radio operators. The result was a constant flood of radio noise that the alien computers couldn't ignore. Every song, every commercial, every cat video uploaded to the internet was being broadcast into space at maximum power. On the alien flagship, Sub-Commander Velnock was dealing with a cascade of system failures. Their computers kept crashing as they tried to analyze the flood of human transmissions. "Sir, the analysis systems are overloaded," he reported to Admiral Kextar. "They keep trying to decode human broadcasts as military communications." Kextar looked at the data streaming across his screens. "What are they transmitting?" Velnock checked his console. "Music, entertainment programs, something called social media posts, and advertisements for food products." "Food products?" "Yes, sir. Apparently humans are very interested in something called pizza." Kextar's 4 eyes narrowed. This was clearly some kind of psychological warfare, designed to confuse and demoralize his forces. No species would waste energy transmitting trivial information into space unless it had military significance. He was wrong, of course. Humans transmitted everything into space because they could, and because someone, somewhere, might want to watch old television shows or listen to music while working on a space station. The alien confusion was growing worse by the hour. Their long-range sensors kept detecting new human vessels, but when they moved to investigate, they found civilian ships going about their normal business. A passenger liner was mistaken for a battleship because of its size. A research probe studying Saturn's rings was tracked as a stealth reconnaissance vessel. Automated cargo ship carrying ice from the outer system triggered a full alert because the aliens thought it was a massive missile. Major Kelly Foster was defending the lunar, mining colonies when she discovered another alien weakness. The Zephyrian ground forces had powered armor that was incredibly advanced, but it had been designed for standard gravity conditions. On the moon, where gravity was 1/6 of Earth normal, the armor kept overcompensating. Alien soldiers would try to take a step and end up jumping 20 feet into the air. They would attempt to duck behind cover and instead launch themselves into low orbit. "This is almost too easy," Foster radioed to her troops. "Just stay patient and let them bounce around until they crash into something." The human defenders, trained in low-gravity combat, moved with careful precision while the aliens flailed helplessly in their malfunctioning armor. Within hours, the entire alien landing force had been captured or had fled back to their ships. Dr. Helen Brooks on the Discovery was making more discoveries about alien technology. She had been analyzing their ship's energy signatures and found something very interesting. Commander Phillips, they're using a centralized command system, she reported. Every ship in their fleet is connected to the others through quantum communication links. Phillips looked at her data. That sounds efficient. It is until something goes wrong. If we can disrupt those links, their entire fleet coordination will collapse. Brooks had already figured out how to do it. The aliens' quantum communication system was incredibly sophisticated, but it was also incredibly precise. It required exact frequency matching and perfect timing to work. Human technology was neither exact nor precise. It was robust, redundant, and deliberately noisy. Every radar dish, every communication satellite, every cell phone tower was pumping out electromagnetic radiation at slightly different frequencies. If we can get all our transmitters to broadcast at the same time, the interference should disrupt their quantum links, Brooks explained. Phillips nodded. How do we coordinate that? We don't need to. We just need to make a lot of noise all at once. The plan was beautifully simple. At exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time, every human facility in the solar system would transmit at maximum power for 60 seconds. Radio stations, television broadcasters, satellite networks, even garage door openers and microwave ovens would all contribute to a massive burst of electromagnetic noise. The aliens, with their sophisticated equipment, would detect it as a coordinated attack. In reality, it would just be humans doing what they did best, making noise. Admiral Kekstar was beginning to realize that he had underestimated his enemy in every possible way. The humans weren't just primitive. They were unpredictably primitive. They used chaos as a weapon and turned their own limitations into advantages. Sir, Velnock reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Kekstar ordered. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Admiral Kekstar, this is your final warning. Leave our system now, or we'll be forced to show you more of our primitive human technology. Kekstar felt his confidence waver. After 3 days of fighting, he was no longer sure what human primitive technology might be capable of. The war was now in its second week, and Captain Morrison found himself commanding the strangest fleet in human history. Military ships fought alongside garbage haulers, mining vessels, and passenger liners. Everyone with a ship and weapons had joined the fight. Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty watching his tactical display. The aliens had changed their strategy again. They were avoiding the inner solar system and its dangerous debris fields, staying in the outer regions where space was cleaner. Sir, solar weather report, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez announced. We have a major solar storm building. Estimated arrival in 6 hours, Morrison smiled. The sun had been more active than usual lately, sending out bursts of electromagnetic energy that played havoc with sensitive electronics. For humans with their shielded and hardened equipment, solar storms were an annoyance. For the aliens, they were becoming a nightmare. Amy, send a message to Admiral Carter. Tell her we're going to time our next attack to coincide with the solar storm. The plan was Commander Phillips' idea. The research vessel Discovery had been tracking solar activity for months as part of a routine science mission. Phillips realized that the alien ships, with their advanced quantum computers, were incredibly vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. It's like having a computer that's so sensitive it crashes every time someone uses a hairdryer, Dr. Brooks had explained. The aliens built their technology to work in the perfect conditions of deep space. But our solar system is messy and chaotic. Phillips had coordinated with weather satellites and solar observation stations to predict exactly when the next solar flare would hit. The timing would be perfect. On the alien flagship, Subcommander Velnock was reporting more equipment failures to Admiral Kekstar. Sir, 15 ships have reported navigation computer malfunctions. The quantum processors keep experiencing cascade failures. Kekstar studied the error reports with growing frustration. Every day brought new technical problems. Their magnificent fleet was being defeated by radiostatic and space weather. What is causing these failures? He demanded. Velnock checked his instruments. The humans appear to be coordinating their transmissions to create maximum interference. Every radio source in their system is broadcasting simultaneously. This was partly true, but not in the way the aliens thought. Humans did coordinate their broadcasts, but not for military reasons. Radio and television stations synchronized their clocks to avoid interference with each other. Cell phone networks shared timing signals to handle calls efficiently. Even garage door openers were programmed to avoid conflicting frequencies. The result was a complex web of electromagnetic signals that filled Earth's local space with precisely the kind of noise that disrupted alien quantum computers. It wasn't planned as a weapon. It was just how human technology worked. Private First Class Tony Martinez was working in the Communications Center of Earth Defense Command when he made the discovery that changed everything. Tony was trying to jam alien communications by broadcasting random signals across all frequencies. Unfortunately, Tony had accidentally connected his transmitter to the main internet feed instead of the signal generator. The result was that Earth's entire internet was being broadcast into space at maximum power. Every email, every social media post, every streaming video, and every online game was being transmitted to the alien fleet at the speed of light. The aliens' analysis computers, designed to process and decode military communications, tried to analyze everything. "Sir, we have a problem," the alien communications officer reported to Kextar. "The humans are transmitting massive amounts of data. Our computers are trying to decode it all." "Military intelligence?" Kextar asked hopefully. "No, sir. It appears to be civilians discussing their daily activities, sharing pictures of small animals and debating the quality of various entertainment programs." Kextar's four eyes widened. "They're using psychological warfare, flooding our systems with meaningless information to prevent us from detecting real military communications." Again, he was wrong. Humans shared everything on the internet because they could, not because it had any strategic value, but the alien computers didn't know that. They kept trying to find hidden meanings in cat videos and recipe exchanges. The breakthrough came when Dr. Mitchell discovered how the aliens were navigating. "Admiral Carter, they're using our GPS satellites," she reported. "Their navigation computers are interpreting our satellite signals as navigation aids." Carter realized the implications immediately. "Can we feed them false information?" "Better than that. We can make them think they're somewhere they're not." The global positioning system had been designed for civilian use, but it had military applications too. More importantly, it could be selectively degraded or modified to introduce errors. The military had been doing this for decades to prevent enemies from using GPS to guide weapons. Now they could do it to confuse an entire alien fleet. Dr. Mitchell worked with the GPS control centers to gradually introduce small errors into the satellite signals. At first, the changes were tiny, just a few meters here and there. But over time, the errors accumulated. Alien ships that thought they were in safe positions suddenly found themselves dangerously close to each other. Navigation computers that relied on GPS data began giving contradictory readings. Some ships ended up light years away from where they thought they were. Admiral Kextar was dealing with reports of ships appearing in completely wrong locations. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Sir, it appears the humans can manipulate their navigation network," Velnock reported. "Ships are reporting positions that don't match our stellar observations." Meanwhile, the solar storm was building. NASA's solar weather stations were tracking a massive coronal mass ejection heading directly for Earth. In 12 hours, the entire inner solar system would be flooded with electromagnetic radiation. Captain Morrison was coordinating the final attack. Every human ship was moving into position, using the confusion caused by GPS errors to get closer to the alien fleet. "This is Morrison to all vessels," he broadcast. "In 6 hours, when the solar storm hits, their computers will crash. That's when we strike." The alien fleet was in disarray. Ships were scattered across the outer system, many of them lost and unable to communicate with the flagship. Their quantum computers were already struggling with interference from human broadcasts, and the approaching solar storm would make things much worse. Kextar made a desperate decision. "All ships, concentrate fire on what appears to be their main military installation," he ordered. The alien sensors had identified the International Space Station as Earth's primary military command center. It was the largest human structure in orbit, and it was constantly broadcasting signals to the surface. Obviously, it had to be the center of human military operations. The aliens were wrong again. The ISS was a research station and communications hub, not a military base, but it did serve one important function. It was home to several astronauts who had been documenting the war for historical purposes. When the evacuation order came, The ISS crew followed standard emergency procedures. They jettisoned everything that wasn't essential for life support, creating a cloud of debris that included scientific equipment, spare parts, and several months' worth of garbage. The alien attack destroyed the empty station, but the debris cloud created another navigation hazard. More importantly, the destruction of the ISS triggered automatic emergency responses throughout the human space network. Emergency beacons activated. Rescue ships launched automatically. Communication satellites switched to high-power emergency broadcast mode. The entire human space infrastructure lit up with distress signals and emergency transmissions. To the aliens, it looked like they had triggered a coordinated military response. In reality, they had just created a massive traffic jam in Earth's orbital space. "Sir, we're detecting thousands of new signals," the alien communications officer reported. "It appears we've awakened their reserve fleet." Kextar felt a chill of fear. The humans seemed to have unlimited reserves. Every time he thought he understood their capabilities, they revealed something new and unexpected. The solar storm was 6 hours away, and his fleet was scattered and confused. The humans were closing in, and their chaotic fighting style was proving impossible to counter. For the first time since the invasion began, Admiral Kextar began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. The solar storm hit the outer solar system like an invisible tsunami of electromagnetic energy. On Earth, people noticed their radio reception getting fuzzy, and their cell phones dropping calls. In space, the effect was much more dramatic. The alien fleet's quantum computers crashed all at once. Navigation systems went offline. Communication links between ships failed. Weapons targeting systems displayed error messages in languages that most of the crew couldn't read. Admiral Kextar stood on his bridge, watching his perfect fleet fall apart around him. Ship after ship reported system failures. Some vessels were drifting helplessly, their pilots unable to control anything more complex than life support. "Sir, we've lost contact with 34 ships," Sub-Commander Velnock reported. "The quantum communication network is completely down." Kextar felt panic rising in his chest. Without their advanced computers, his ships were almost helpless. The Zephyrian military had become so dependent on technology that most of his crew didn't know how to fight without it. Captain Morrison, watching from the Liberty, saw his opportunity. "All ships, this is Morrison. Execute Operation Lucky Shot. Attack pattern: complete chaos." Operation Lucky Shot was Admiral Carter's masterpiece of military planning. Instead of a coordinated assault with precise timing and formation flying, it called for every human ship to attack independently, using whatever tactics seemed appropriate at the moment. The plan relied on the simple fact that humans were better at improvisation than aliens. While the Zephyrians struggled with their failed computers, human crews would adapt and overcome. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez launched the Liberty's missiles in a spread pattern that looked random, but was actually based on a card game she had learned in the academy. The alien point defense systems, trying to predict the missiles' paths, couldn't figure out her pattern because there wasn't one. Commander Phillips brought the Discovery in close, using his research ship's sensor array as a weapon. He flooded the alien ships with active sensor pings at maximum power, creating so much electronic noise that their already damaged computers couldn't process anything else. "This is like shouting in a library," Dr. Brooks observed with satisfaction. "Their systems are designed for quiet, controlled environments." All across the battlefield, human ships were proving that simple solutions worked better than complex ones. Mining lasers cut through alien hulls, cargo ships rammed enemy vessels. Even a passenger liner got into the fight, using its powerful communication array to jam alien frequencies. Captain Sue Williams in the Rock Hopper had found a new use for her mining equipment. The same magnetic grapples that picked up asteroids could grab alien ships and hold them steady for missile strikes. "This is like fishing," she told her crew as they reeled in an alien destroyer. "Except the fish shoot back." The alien crew of the captured destroyer tried desperately to break free, but their computer-controlled engines couldn't overcome the simple mechanical strength of human mining equipment. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Taylor was leading his mixed squadron in an attack on the alien flagship. His force included 2 police patrol boats that had been pressed into military service, complete with their original crews. "Attention alien vessel," broadcast officer Pete Johnson from his patrol boat. "This is the Solar System Police. You are under arrest for illegal entry, assault, and disturbing the peace. The absurdity of being challenged by space police was too much for some alien crew members. Several ships simply surrendered rather than continue fighting such an incomprehensible enemy. On the Discovery, Dr. Brooks made another crucial discovery. "Commander, I figured out their command structure," she announced. "Every decision has to go up the chain of command and back down. Even simple maneuvers require approval from higher-ranking officers." Phillips realized what this meant. "So if we cut their communications, they can't coordinate anything." "Exactly. Each ship becomes an independent unit, but the crews aren't trained to think independently." This explained why the alien fleet was performing so badly. Human military doctrine emphasized individual initiative and independent thinking. Alien doctrine apparently did the opposite. Major Kelly Foster, still defending the lunar colonies, had captured several alien ground troops whose powered armor had malfunctioned in low gravity. During interrogation, she learned something interesting about alien psychology. "They keep asking about our command structure," she reported to Earth Command. "They can't understand how our civilians and military work together without central coordination." Admiral Carter realized this was another critical difference between human and alien thinking. Humans were used to chaos and improvisation. They formed temporary alliances, shared resources without formal agreements, and made decisions based on incomplete information. The aliens, with their rigid hierarchy and perfect technology, couldn't adapt to the messy reality of human society. They kept looking for the central command authority that must be coordinating the human defense, not realizing that humans didn't need one. The battle was turning into a rout. Alien ships were fleeing in all directions, many of them still unable to communicate with each other. Those that remained were being systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Private Tony Martinez, the communications technician who had accidentally broadcast the internet to the aliens, had discovered that his mistake was still causing problems for the enemy. "Sir, their computers are still trying to analyze our data transmissions," he reported. "They're spending so much processing power on cat videos that they can't run their weapon systems." Admiral Carter laughed, despite the seriousness of the situation. The aliens were being defeated by cute animal pictures and social media posts. It would go down in military history as the strangest victory ever achieved. Admiral Kextar, trapped on his crippled flagship, watched his fleet disappear on the few sensors that were still working. Half his ships had fled the system. A quarter had been destroyed or captured. The rest were scattered and lost, their crews trying to navigate by visual observation of stars. "Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawal," Felnock suggested carefully. Kextar looked at his subordinate with 3 of his 4 eyes. The 4th was twitching, a sign of extreme stress among his people. "Withdraw? From a species that defeats us with garbage and radio noise? Sir, they appear to be more formidable than our initial assessment indicated." That was the understatement of the century. The humans had proven that advanced technology was useless if you couldn't adapt to changing circumstances. Their chaotic, improvised fighting style had completely countered every advantage the aliens possessed. Captain Morrison was closing in on the alien flagship when he received an unexpected transmission. Admiral Kextar's image appeared on his screen, looking defeated and exhausted. "Human commander, I request terms for surrender," the alien admiral said quietly. Morrison felt a moment of sympathy for his enemy. The aliens had come expecting an easy conquest and instead found themselves outmatched by creatures who turned their weaknesses into strengths. "Admiral, here are my terms," Morrison replied. "Leave our system immediately. Don't come back, and spread the word to any other species who might be thinking about invading us." Kextar nodded slowly. "What word should we spread?" Morrison thought about everything that had happened over the past 2 weeks. The meteor shower that had started it all, the way human chaos had defeated alien order, the simple fact that luck seemed to favor the side that was prepared for anything. "Tell them this," Morrison said finally. "If you want to fight humans, you'd better hope luck is on your side, because it sure won't be on ours when we're defending our home." The alien fleet was in full retreat, but Admiral Carter wasn't ready to let them go just yet. She had learned valuable lessons about alien technology and psychology during the war, and she wanted to make sure those lessons weren't forgotten. "Captain Morrison, maintain pursuit but keep your distance," she ordered from Earth Command. "I want to see how they behave when they think they're safe." Morrison acknowledged the order and followed the fleeing alien ships toward the edge of the solar system. What he saw confirmed everything they had learned about alien inflexibility. The remaining ships were trying to regroup into their original formation, even though half their fleet was gone. They moved slowly and predictably, following procedures that had probably worked well against other enemies but made them sitting ducks for human tactics. Commander Phillips on the Discovery was using his sensors to study the alien ships as they retreated. Dr. Brooks had made some interesting discoveries about their technology. "Ryan, look at this," she said, pointing to her displays. "Their ships are designed for perfect conditions. Clean vacuum, no interference, no unexpected obstacles. They're like luxury cars trying to drive through a swamp." Phillips nodded. The aliens had built incredibly sophisticated machines, but they had forgotten that space wasn't actually empty. It was full of dust, radiation, magnetic fields, and debris. Human ships were built to handle all of that chaos. Alien ships apparently weren't. "Brooks, what happens to their technology in other star systems? Do they have the same problems everywhere?" Dr. Brooks thought about this. "Probably not. Most star systems are much cleaner than ours. We have an unusual amount of debris because we're still young and messy. Older civilizations probably clean up their space." This explained a lot. The Zephyrians had conquered 12 other worlds, but those worlds had probably been inhabited by species that followed predictable patterns. Humans were different. They made messes everywhere they went, and they had learned to thrive in chaos. Back on Earth, engineers were already studying captured alien technology. Danny Rodriguez, Amy's brother, was leading a team that was trying to reverse engineer alien computers. "Admiral Carter, we've made some progress," he reported. "Their quantum processors are incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly fragile. Any kind of interference makes them crash." "How fragile?" Carter asked. Danny held up a small device. "This is a standard emergency radio beacon. If I turn it on within 50 feet of an alien computer, the computer stops working." Carter whistled. No wonder the aliens had problems in Earth's orbital space, which was filled with thousands of transmitters, beacons, and communication devices. What about their weapons and shields? Same problem. Everything is interconnected through quantum links. Disrupt the links and the whole system fails. It's like having a car where the radio controls the engine. Meanwhile, the retreating alien fleet was discovering new problems. Their navigation computers, still trying to use corrupted GPS data, were giving them incorrect positions. Several ships had gotten lost trying to find the edge of the solar system. Admiral Kextar was struggling to maintain contact with his scattered fleet. The quantum communication system that had seemed so advanced a few weeks ago now felt like a liability. Every time a human radio signal interfered with the links, he lost contact with more ships. "Sir, we have only managed to establish contact with 18 vessels," Sub-Commander Velnock reported. "The others appear to be lost or have suffered complete system failures." Kextar closed his eyes, all 4 of them. This defeat would end his career and probably his life. The Zephyrian High Command did not tolerate failure, especially not failure on this scale. On the Liberty, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was monitoring alien communications with growing amazement. "Sir, they're still trying to use their quantum communication system," she reported to Morrison. "Every time our radar sweeps their position, their network crashes." Morrison realized they had discovered the aliens' greatest weakness. "Amy, contact all ships. I want everyone to turn on their radars, navigation systems, and communication arrays. Full power, all frequencies." The result was spectacular. The remaining alien ships lost contact with each other completely, as human electronic emissions flooded the area. Ships that had been flying in formation suddenly found themselves alone in space, their crews unable to communicate with anyone. Some alien crews panicked and flew in random directions, trying to escape the electronic noise. Others shut down all their systems and drifted helplessly, waiting for the interference to stop. Captain Sue Williams, still pursuing in her mining ship, decided to try an experiment. She activated her industrial scanner, the device she normally used to analyze asteroid composition. The scanner sent out powerful electromagnetic pulses that could penetrate solid rock. The nearest alien ship immediately went dark. Its engines stopped working, its lights went out, and it began tumbling end over end. The scanner had overloaded every electronic system on the vessel. "Well, that's interesting," Sue said to her crew. "Looks like we found another weapon." Word spread quickly through the human fleet. "Mining scanners? Weather radar, communication arrays, even microwave ovens from ships' kitchens were being used to disable alien vessels. The Zephyrians' advanced technology was being defeated by everyday human devices. Dr. Mitchell, coordinating from Earth's space agency, was documenting everything for future reference. "This is incredible," she told Admiral Carter. "We found at least 30 different ways to disrupt alien systems using common civilian technology." "Make sure we record all of it," Carter replied. "If they come back or if we meet other species like them, we'll be ready." But the aliens were learning too. The survivors were adapting their tactics, shutting down their quantum systems and reverting to simpler backup computers. It wasn't as efficient, but it was more reliable in the chaotic environment of the human solar system. Admiral Kextar was one of the few alien commanders who recognized what was happening. "We have been defeated by our own sophistication," he told Velnok. "We built machines so advanced that they cannot function in imperfect conditions. Sir, should we recommend changes to our technology?" Kextar's laugh was bitter. "The High Command will not listen. They will blame this defeat on my incompetence, not on flawed assumptions about alien resistance." He was probably right. The Zephyrian military had been successful for centuries using the same methods. They wouldn't change their entire approach based on one defeat, even if that defeat had been total and humiliating. Major Kelly Foster, studying captured alien equipment on Luna, was reaching similar conclusions. "Their technology is like a perfect crystal," she reported. "Beautiful, efficient, and incredibly fragile. One small flaw and the whole thing shatters." Human technology, by contrast, was more like concrete. Not as elegant, not as efficient, but tough enough to survive almost anything. It was built by people who expected things to go wrong and planned accordingly. The retreating alien fleet finally reached the edge of the solar system, where space was cleaner and their systems could function normally. But they were no longer the proud armada that had arrived 3 weeks earlier. They were a broken, scattered collection of survivors, many of whom were questioning everything they had believed about their own superiority. Captain Morrison watched the last alien ship disappear into interstellar space and felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction. They had won, but more importantly, they had learned something valuable about themselves and their place in the galaxy. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Stand down from combat alert. Return to normal operations." The war was over, but its lessons would be remembered for generations. Humans had discovered that their chaotic, improvised way of doing things was actually a strength. They had learned that advanced technology was useless without the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances. Most importantly, they had proven that luck truly did favor the prepared mind, especially when that mind was willing to turn problems into opportunities. 6 months after the alien retreat, the solar system had returned to something resembling normal life, but the war had changed everything. Humans now knew they weren't alone in the galaxy, and they were determined to be ready for whatever came next. Admiral Carter stood in the new Strategic Defense Center on Luna, looking out at a construction project that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Hundreds of ships were working together to build humanity's first deep space monitoring station, designed to detect alien fleets long before they reached the inner system. "How's the project coming along?" asked Dr. Mitchell, who had been promoted to head of the new Alien Technology Research Division. "Ahead of schedule for once," Carter replied. "Amazing what people can accomplish when they're properly motivated." The motivation was simple. No one wanted to be caught off guard again. The Zephyrian invasion had succeeded in its first few minutes because humans hadn't been expecting it. That would never happen again. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, was overseeing the construction from his new flagship, the Earth defense vessel Defiance. The ship was a hybrid design, combining human engineering with carefully selected alien technologies that had been reverse-engineered and simplified. "The shield generators are working perfectly," reported his chief engineer, Commander Danny Rodriguez. "We stripped out all the quantum components and replaced them with solid-state systems. Not as elegant as the original, but they won't crash every time someone turns on a radio." Morrison nodded approvingly. The human approach to alien technology was simple. Take what worked, throw out what didn't, and make everything as robust as possible. If it couldn't survive being operated by tired humans in stressful conditions, it wasn't worth having. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, now Captain Rodriguez and commanding her own ship, was leading a patrol near Jupiter when her sensors detected something unusual. A small alien vessel was drifting in the outer system, apparently abandoned. "This is Captain Rodriguez to Admiral Morrison," she transmitted. "We have a situation out here. Single alien ship, no power signature, no response to our hails." Morrison authorized a boarding party led by Major Kelly Foster. The former lunar defender had become the solar system's expert on alien technology and psychology. Foster's team approached the alien vessel carefully, expecting traps or automated defenses. Instead, they found a small ship with a crew of 3 Zephyrians who appeared to be defectors. "Please," one of the aliens said in broken English, "we seek asylum. We cannot return to Zephyrian space." Foster established communication through the alien's translator device. The story that emerged was fascinating and troubling. The 3 aliens were scientists who had been part of the original invasion fleet. After witnessing the defeat, they had begun questioning everything they had been taught about Zephyrian superiority and alien inferiority. The High Command declared Admiral Kextar a traitor. The lead scientist explained. They said he was incompetent, that any competent commander could have easily defeated primitive humans. "They are preparing a second invasion fleet." Foster felt her blood run cold. "How long before they arrive?" "2 of your years, perhaps 3. But they will make the same mistakes." The High Command refuses to believe that human technology could be effective against Zephyrian systems. Back on Earth, Admiral Carter convened an emergency meeting of the Solar Defense Council. The 3 alien defectors, now under protective custody, were providing intelligence about Zephyrian capabilities and plans. "They're building a bigger fleet," Carter announced to the assembled leaders. 500 ships instead of the 46 that came before. But they're not changing their technology or tactics. General Stevens, now head of System Defense Forces, studied the intelligence reports. "So they're going to make the same mistakes, just with more ships. That's what it looks like. The question is, can we handle 500 ships using the same methods that worked against 46? Dr. Mitchell had been analyzing the problem from a technical perspective. "The good news is that their weaknesses are built into their technology. More ships means more quantum computers to crash, more communication links to disrupt." Commander Phillips, now Admiral Phillips and head of the Deep Space Survey Division, had a different concern. "The problem isn't their technology, it's their numbers. Even if we disable 90% of their fleet, 50 ships could still destroy Earth." This led to heated discussions about strategy and preparation. Some leaders wanted to build a massive military fleet to match the alien numbers. Others preferred to focus on developing better defensive technologies. Captain Sue Williams, representing the civilian spacers who had played such a crucial role in the First War, had a different suggestion. "Why don't we take the fight to them? Hit their fleet before it reaches our system." The idea was bold and dangerous. Humans had never traveled beyond their own solar system. Their ships weren't designed for interstellar journeys, and they had no idea what they might encounter in alien space. But the more they discussed it, the more sense it made. The aliens expected humans to wait passively for invasion. An attack on their staging area would be completely unexpected. It would have to be a small force, Morrison pointed out. "Fast ships, limited supplies, hit-and-run tactics." Phillips nodded. "We could modify some of the research vessels for long-range flight. Add better engines, more fuel, simplified life support systems." Over the following months, Project Longshot took shape. A fleet of 12 modified ships would travel to the Zephyrian staging area and attempt to disrupt their invasion preparations. The mission was voluntary, and everyone knew it was essentially a suicide run. Morrison volunteered to lead the mission, along with many of the veterans of the First War. Amy Rodriguez signed up immediately, as did Sue Williams, Kelly Foster, and dozens of others who had proven themselves in battle. "You realize we probably won't be coming back," Morrison told his volunteers during a final briefing. "Maybe not," Amy replied, "but if we can delay their invasion by even 6 months, it gives Earth more time to prepare." The Longshot fleet launched on a Tuesday morning, watched by billions of people across the solar system. The ships accelerated away from Earth at maximum speed, their modified engines pushing them toward an uncertain fate among the stars. Behind them, the solar system continued its preparations. New monitoring stations came online every month. Weapon systems were tested and improved. Most importantly, human society was adapting to its new role as a player in galactic politics. The 3 Zephyrian defectors were proving invaluable in this effort. They provided detailed information about alien psychology, technology, and military doctrine. More importantly, they were helping humans understand their place in the larger galactic community. There are hundreds of species in this part of the galaxy, the lead defector explained. Most are peaceful, but they are dominated by aggressive empires like ours. Species that resist are usually destroyed or enslaved. What makes humans different? Dr. Mitchell asked. The alien considered this carefully. Most species follow predictable patterns. They build cities in logical locations, use efficient technologies, organize their societies rationally. Humans do none of these things consistently. Is that good or bad? For survival against empires like mine? It is very good. We cannot predict you, cannot plan for your responses, cannot counter your strategies because you have no fixed strategies. This confirmed what human leaders had already suspected. Their chaotic, improvisational approach to problem-solving was actually an advantage in dealing with rigid alien civilizations. 6 months after the Longshot fleet's departure, they received a brief message. Mission accomplished. Hope you're ready for visitors. The transmission cut off before any details could be sent. 3 weeks later, long-range sensors detected ships approaching the solar system. But these weren't Zephyrian vessels. They were smaller, faster, and completely unknown. Admiral Carter authorized a cautious approach by the patrol fleet. What they found surprised everyone. A mixed group of alien ships from several different species, all claiming to be refugees from Zephyrian space. The human attack was very successful, explained the captain of the lead ship, a member of a species that looked like walking plants. It destroyed the staging area and scattered the invasion fleet. But it also triggered a rebellion among the Zephyrian Empire's subject species. The galaxy, it seemed, was changing. The human victory had inspired other species to resist Zephyrian domination. An interstellar war was brewing, and Earth found itself at the center of it. Admiral Carter looked out at the growing fleet of refugee ships and realized that humanity's real test was just beginning. They had won one battle, but the war for galactic freedom was far from over. 2 years had passed since the Longshot mission, and the solar system had become the unlikely capital of a growing rebellion against the Zephyrian Empire. Ships from dozens of species crowded the orbital stations around Earth, their crews learning human tactics and sharing their own knowledge. Admiral Carter stood in the command center of Freedom Station, humanity's first interstellar diplomatic facility. Through the massive windows, she could see the strangest fleet in galactic history preparing for departure. Human vessels flew alongside ships that looked like living trees, crystalline structures, and geometric puzzles. Final status report, she requested from her aide. 732 ships from 43 species, came the reply. All crews trained in human tactical doctrine, all ships modified with human-designed backup systems. Carter nodded. The backup systems were crucial. Every alien ship in the fleet had been equipped with simple, robust human technology that would keep working even when their advanced systems failed. It wasn't elegant, but it was reliable. Admiral Morrison had returned from the Longshot mission 6 months earlier, along with half his original crew. The others had stayed behind to help coordinate the rebellion that their attack had sparked. His ship, the Defiance, now served as the flagship of the combined resistance fleet. Morrison to all ships. He broadcast on the fleet communication channel. This is it, people. Today we end the Zephyrian Empire's reign of terror. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and don't let their advanced technology intimidate you. The fleet began its journey toward the Zephyrian home system, a massive formation stretching across millions of kilometers of space. At its heart flew the human ships, their crews serving as tactical coordinators for the alien vessels around them. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded a squadron of mixed ships that included a crystalline frigate, 2 botanical cruisers, and a dozen human destroyers. Her job was to demonstrate that human chaos tactics worked even when used by non-human crews. Remember, she told her alien subordinates, the key is unpredictability. Don't follow standard attack patterns. Make decisions based on the immediate situation, not on predetermined plans. The concept was difficult for many alien species to grasp. Most had evolved in societies that valued order, hierarchy, and careful planning. The idea of deliberately introducing chaos into their tactics felt wrong to them, but they were learning. The crystalline captain, whose species communicated through harmonic vibrations, had begun modifying his ship's approach patterns based on random number generators. The botanical crews, who normally moved with the slow deliberation of growing plants, were practicing rapid course changes and sudden acceleration. Deep in Zephyrian space, Admiral Kextar received the news of the approaching rebel fleet with a mixture of fear and resignation. He had been demoted after his defeat at Earth and was now commanding a border patrol station, far from the Empire's center. "Sir, long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching our system," his aide reported. "Estimated strength over 700 vessels." Kextar studied the sensor data with growing amazement. The fleet's composition made no sense according to traditional military doctrine. Ships of different sizes and capabilities were mixed together randomly. There was no clear formation, no obvious strategy. "It's them," he said quietly. "The humans have taught the other species their chaotic fighting methods." "Sir, should we alert the High Command?" Kextar considered this. The High Command had ignored his warnings about human capabilities for 2 years. They had dismissed his reports as the excuses of a failed commander. Now they would learn the truth the hard way. "Send the alert," he ordered. "But I doubt they will listen until it's too late." The rebel fleet's first target was a major Zephyrian shipyard, a massive facility that produced the Empire's most advanced warships. The attack was planned by a joint human-alien command team that included representatives from every species in the fleet. The plan was typically human in its complexity and simplicity. Instead of a direct assault on the heavily defended facility, they would attack everything around it: supply convoys, patrol routes, communication relays, and mining operations. "We're not trying to destroy the shipyard," Admiral Phillips explained to the alien commanders. "We're trying to drive it crazy." The strategy worked perfectly. The shipyard's defense computers were designed to coordinate responses to direct attacks, not to handle hundreds of simultaneous minor threats scattered across an entire star system. Every time they focused on one problem, 3 new ones appeared somewhere else. Within hours, the shipyard was essentially paralyzed. Its defenses were intact, but its ability to function was completely disrupted. No supplies were getting through. No new ships were being completed. And the facility's commanders were overwhelmed trying to coordinate responses to threats they couldn't understand. Similar attacks were taking place throughout Zephyrian space. The rebellion had learned the human lesson well. You didn't need to be stronger than your enemy. You just needed to be more adaptable and more creative. Captain Sue Williams, now commanding a mixed squadron of mining ships from several species, had discovered that industrial equipment made excellent weapons when used creatively. Her current target was a Zephyrian communications hub that coordinated fleet movements across 3 star systems. Instead of attacking the hub directly, she had her ships begin mining the asteroid field around it. The powerful industrial lasers and magnetic grapples, designed for peaceful resource extraction, were tearing apart the asteroids and creating a debris field that blocked the hub's communication arrays. "This is beautiful," commented her crystalline second-in-command, whose species appreciated elegant solutions. "You are using their own environment against them." On the Zephyrian homeworld, the High Command was finally beginning to understand the scope of the crisis. Reports were flooding in from across the Empire. Systems under attack, facilities disrupted, fleets scattered and confused. "How is this possible?" demanded the Supreme Commander. "We have the most advanced military in the galaxy." "Sir, the enemy appears to be using human tactical doctrine," replied the intelligence chief. "They are not fighting according to any recognizable strategy. Every engagement follows different patterns." The Supreme Commander's expression darkened. 2 years earlier, he had dismissed Admiral Kextar's warnings about human unpredictability. Now that unpredictability was being used against the entire Empire, "Deploy the reserve fleets," he ordered. "Crush this rebellion before it spreads further." But the reserve fleets were discovering the same problems that had plagued the original Earth invasion. Their advanced computers couldn't adapt to chaotic fighting styles. Their rigid command structure couldn't respond quickly enough to constantly changing situations. Worse, the rebellion was growing. Species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians decades or centuries earlier were rising up, inspired by the success of the human-led alliance. The empire that had seemed invincible was crumbling from within. Admiral Morrison, coordinating the overall campaign from his flagship, was amazed at how quickly the rebellion had spread. It's like a virus, he told his staff. Every time we demonstrate that the Zephyrians can be beaten, more species join us. The key was the human approach to warfare: adaptability over perfection, flexibility over power, creativity over technology. These concepts were spreading throughout the galaxy, changing how entire civilizations thought about conflict and cooperation. Captain Rodriguez, leading her mixed squadron in an attack on a Zephyrian fortress world, watched as botanical ships used their living hulls to absorb enemy fire, while crystalline vessels focused their harmonic weapons on specific structural weaknesses. The coordination was perfect, but it looked completely chaotic to observers who expected traditional military formations. Rodriguez to Morrison, she transmitted. Fortress world secured. The defenders surrendered after their computer systems crashed, trying to analyze our attack patterns. Similar reports were coming in from across the battle zone. The Zephyrian Empire's greatest strength, its advanced technology and rigid organization, had become its greatest weakness when faced with enemies who refused to fight according to established rules. The war's turning point came when Admiral Kextar, still commanding his border station, made a crucial decision. Instead of trying to stop the rebel fleet passing through his sector, he joined them. "This is Admiral Kextar to the human commander," he transmitted. "I request permission to surrender my forces to your alliance." Morrison was surprised but pleased. "Permission granted, Admiral. Welcome to the rebellion." Kextar's defection triggered a cascade of similar surrenders throughout the Zephyrian military. Commanders who had seen the futility of fighting human tactics began laying down their arms rather than face certain defeat. Within 6 months of the campaign's start, the Zephyrian Empire had collapsed. The Supreme Commander fled to a distant colony, taking only a few loyal ships. The remaining Zephyrian worlds either joined the rebellion or declared independence. The warning came on a Tuesday morning when most of the human colonies were just starting their day. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee on the bridge of the UES Liberty when the communication console started blinking with an urgent priority message. The red lights meant only one thing: someone important wanted to talk, and they wanted to talk now. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Luna Station," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim from her position at the communications desk. "It's Admiral Rodriguez herself, sir. She wants to speak with all ship commanders immediately." Morrison set down his coffee cup and straightened his uniform. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez was the head of the Human Colonial Defense Force, and she didn't call meetings unless something serious was happening. In the 12 years since humanity had started expanding beyond Earth, there had been only 3 such emergency calls. Each time had meant bad news. "Put her through to the main screen," Morrison ordered. Around him, the bridge crew stopped their routine work and turned to listen. They could sense the tension in their captain's voice. The screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Rodriguez sitting at her desk on Luna Station. Her usually calm face looked worried, and there were dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't slept much lately. Behind her, Morrison could see other officers moving around with the quick, nervous energy that meant crisis management. "Attention, all ship commanders," Admiral Rodriguez began without her usual pleasantries. "We have received an official communication from a species calling themselves the Kethran Empire. They have given us 30 days to abandon all colonies beyond the Sol system, or they will begin what they call systematic eradication of human settlements." A cold silence fell over the Liberty's bridge. Morrison felt his stomach drop as the words sank in. Systematic eradication was a polite way of saying genocide. Someone wanted to wipe out every human being living outside of Earth's solar system, and they had given humanity a month's notice like it was an eviction. The Kethran ambassador delivered this message personally to our diplomatic station at Alpha Centauri, the admiral continued. "According to our intelligence reports, the Kethrans have been expanding their territory for over 300 years. They have never lost a significant military engagement. Every species they have contacted has either submitted to their demands or been completely destroyed." Morrison's tactical officer, Commander Alex Turner, leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, what do we know about their military capabilities?" Rodriguez's expression grew even more grim. "More than I would like, Commander. Our long-range sensors have detected their fleet movements over the past 6 months. They possess energy shield technology that makes our weapons largely ineffective. Their plasma cannon systems can cut through our armor like paper. They also have faster-than-light communication that allows their ships to coordinate perfectly across vast distances. Dr. Emma Sullivan, the Liberty's chief science officer, spoke up from her station. "Have we attempted diplomatic contact? Perhaps we can negotiate some kind of compromise." "We tried," Rodriguez replied. The ambassador was very clear. They view our expansion as a threat to their dominance in this region of space. According to Catherine doctrine, there can be only one dominant species in any given sector. They intend to make sure that species is them. Morrison stood up from his captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. "What are our defensive capabilities, Admiral? How many ships can we field?" "We have 47 operational vessels of cruiser class or larger," Rodriguez answered. "But Jake, I need to be honest with you and every other commander listening to this briefing. Our military analysts have run the numbers. In a direct confrontation with Kethran forces, we have less than a 15% chance of victory. They are simply too advanced, too well organized, and too experienced." The bridge of the Liberty fell quiet again. 15% was not the kind of odds that inspired confidence. Morrison looked around at his crew and saw fear in their eyes, but also something else, a stubborn anger that someone would threaten their homes and families. "Admiral," Morrison said carefully, "what happens if we refuse to leave the colonies?" Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Then we fight, Captain. We fight with everything we have, knowing that we will probably lose. But the alternative is abandoning 12 colonies with over 2 million human beings who have built their lives among the stars. We leave them to the mercy of an empire that doesn't believe in mercy." Morrison thought about the colonies he had visited during his years of service. New Denver, with its mining operations that employed thousands of families. Kepler Station, where scientists were working on revolutionary new technologies. Proxima Colony, where farmers were growing food that could feed the entire human population. These weren't just military installations, they were homes. "Has there been any response from the colonial governments?" asked Commander Turner. "Governor Patricia Wells of New Denver sent a very short message," Rodriguez said with a slight smile. She said, and I quote, "Tell the Kethrans they can kiss our human rear ends." Governor Frank Davis of Kepler Station was slightly more diplomatic, but the message was the same. None of the colonies are willing to abandon their homes. Dr. Sullivan looked up from her console where she had been reviewing data. "Admiral, I've been studying the information about Kethran military tactics. They seem to follow very precise, predictable patterns. Every engagement follows the same basic structure. They arrive in perfect formation, eliminate defensive capabilities with overwhelming firepower, then demand surrender. When the enemy surrenders, they are relocated or destroyed according to Kethran policy." "That's correct, Doctor," Rodriguez confirmed. "They are extremely efficient and professional in their approach to warfare. They win through superior technology and perfect execution of proven tactics." Morrison walked back to his chair, thinking about what he had heard. The Kethrans sounded like the kind of enemy that humanity was least equipped to fight. Disciplined, advanced, and completely ruthless. But something about their approach bothered him. They were too perfect, too predictable. "Admiral, I volunteer the Liberty for the first defensive action," Morrison announced. His crew looked at him with surprise, but he could see approval in their faces. "If the Kethrans want to fight, we should show them what human determination looks like." "Captain Morrison, I appreciate your courage, but you understand the odds," Rodriguez said seriously. "This isn't a battle we can win through bravery alone." "Maybe not, Admiral," Morrison replied. "But sometimes the point isn't winning. Sometimes the point is making sure the other guy knows he's been in a fight. If we're going to lose anyway, let's make sure we make it cost them something." Other voices began speaking up on the communication channel as ship commanders across the human fleet volunteered for combat duty. Captain Nicole Johnson of the stealth ship Shadow requested permission to begin reconnaissance missions. Admiral Frank Davis offered to coordinate fleet movements. The list of volunteers grew longer as every commander in the human navy stepped forward. Admiral Rodriguez listened to the responses and nodded slowly. "Very well. We have 30 days to prepare. I want every ship checked and ready for combat. I want our engineers working on any modifications that might give us an advantage. And I want our diplomatic corps to send one final message to the Kethran Empire." "What should the message say, Admiral?" asked Lieutenant Kim. Rodriguez smiled for the first time during the briefing, but it was not a friendly smile. Tell them that humanity respectfully declines their generous offer to surrender. Tell them that if they want our colonies, they're welcome to come and take them. But remind them that humans have a saying: if you pick a fight with humanity, you'll need more than skill. You'll need luck. The communication ended, leaving the Bridge of the Liberty in thoughtful silence. Morrison looked out at the stars through the main viewing port and wondered how many of those distant suns would soon see human blood spilled in their light. The Kethrans were coming, and humanity would meet them with everything they had. It wasn't going to be enough. But it was going to be interesting. Admiral Carter, now serving as the first president of the Galactic Freedom Alliance, stood before representatives of over 100 species as she signed the treaty that formally ended the war. Today marks not just the end of the Zephyrian Empire, she declared, but the beginning of a new era of cooperation among the species of this galaxy,